Well, the banjo community is real small. You know, most people think of banjos and think of, you know, the big bluegrass banjo with a resonator in the back. What I was interested in was the open back banjo because I wanted to do old time music, and I wasn't quite sure if I wanted, you know, a traditional mountain banjo or a bracket banjo at the time. The traditional Appalachia style banjo is just an old wooden banjo with a small head, and generally they're fretless, you know, no frets, wooden pegs.
The basic pattern of the downstroke up thumb comes all the way from Africa, but the clawhammer style banjo, as you hear it and as you know it today, most of that is from Round Peak and a few other, you know, there are players all over that were doing that style, but Round Peak musicians were definitely the ones that pushed that to the forefront of the popular consciousness, and now everybody emulates that style. So from what I understand, mostly my source of information being C.C. Conway, her book, and a lecture that I saw her give, and is that the banjo came over with early African American slaves, you know, I guess as early as they were coming over, and it's very likely now that we see this research about the accounting, which is this proto-banjo instrument found in a small village, still played in this small village in Senegambia, that instrument, the accounting, is the most likely ancestor of the banjo. You know, it's a round head, and it's a spike lute. It's got this fifth string drone here, or what was with the accounting probably I think a third string. I think it was a 3-string instrument. It was made out of a calabash, a big calabash gourd, and yeah, it's a tradition that survived up until the present, which is really amazing. That nobody really had made the connection until the 90s when a native Senegambian named Daniel Jata, who was living in Scandinavia at the time, kind of made the connection and got in contact with the right people, and they started doing the research. And what's really amazing and interesting about the accounting is that you see not only is the shape of the accounting super similar to the banjo that we see in early American paintings and descriptions, but the way that it's played and the way that the Jola people, the tribe where Daniel Jata's from, the way that they play the accounting is very similar to the way old-time musicians in Appalachia still play the banjo, what we know as clawhammer banjo, which is striking down on the strings with the back of the fingernail and then pulling up on the 5th string with the thumb. So so it's pretty apparent that the accounting is a very likely ancestor of what we have as the banjo now. So the accounting either came, assembled to America, stowaway on ships, or because of its simplicity, the slaves, once they reached America or the Caribbean, were able to reproduce it using materials that they found here. And it just, it caught on. There's a lot of sources that mention the banjo-like instruments under different names throughout the history, and up until about the mid 1800s, when it was popularized in minstrel shows, mostly by blackface performers, notably Joe Sweeney, who is accredited with adding another string to the banjo to make it a 5-string instrument at that point. I guess it had been a 4-string instrument up into that point in history. So yeah, the minstrel era really brought the banjo into the public consciousness in a lot of ways throughout the 1800s, and that's when makers started producing them on a mass scale. When Joe Sweeney and other minstrel performers were playing, the earlier minstrel performers, they were getting specialized luthiers to build them one specific kind of novelty instrument. Once it caught on and became kind of a sensation in the late 1800s, then you started getting factory-made banjos, and it really kind of took off. And from there, a few of those factory-made instruments and homemade instruments made their way into Appalachia, in the hands of black people, white people, and that's where you get the people in Appalachia, such as the folks up on Beach Mountain, like Frank Prophet and Stanley Hicks, that didn't have access to all the materials, all the hardware that you get on factory-made banjos, and that's where they started kind of innovating a way to make a banjo without all the metal brackets and stuff. Thus the wooden tuning pegs and the entire three-ply wooden pot construction that you see up in Beach Mountain.
I know what I know, just with the experience, and that's a lot of it. It's experiencing the Appalachian culture. A lot of people want to study it and write papers on it, obviously. But it's here and it's now, and it's lively, and a big component of that culture is the old time music and the Appalachian music, and instead of trying to study it, I wanted to be a part of it. So and being able to build banjos and play the music, that was kind of my way of being a part of the tradition, kind of keeping the tradition alive. Yeah, as far as the construction of the banjo goes, we do, we have, as you can see around the shop, we have a lot of machines, and we can't make just one banjo at a time. That just doesn't make sense. I have a full-time job working for a solar company, and so in order to make this possible, to fund this hobby, we have to make a lot at one time, and it just makes sense. It's more efficient that way. There's some makers that say, "Oh, we make one banjo at a time," and that's fine. That's great. They're real nice, they're real custom. But we're trying to plant the banjo seed, so to speak, out there in the world, and we feel we have a really great product and a good mission, and we're trying to spread that.